just give it a few, if we'd like to go around and introduce yourself. Adam, maybe we can start with you.
Sure, thanks, Jess. So I'm Adam. I'm part of the BNB chain, taking care of the BD, so I'll say the front office relationship. Usually, any projects that is building or want to build on BNB chain will go through me or my team. So yeah, and a pleasure being here.
We're so happy to have you here. Definitely a huge advocate of the BNB chain. So happy to learn more. And then we also have Seraphim here. Seraphim, welcome. What's going on?
Yeah, guys, how's it going? Yeah, I'm Seraphim from Lido. I call myself DeFi expansionist, just something I came up with. And I want to take Lido to BNB, basically. That's my big goal, and I'm really excited about that. So yeah, happy to chat with BNB folks here.
Awesome, love it. And then we also have Brian here. Brian, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Brian from Gamma Strategies. We're an active liquidity manager on concentrated liquidity AMMs, and currently we're integrated with Finace on BNB Chain, QuickSwap on Polygon, and yeah, happy to be here and talk more about our product throughout this Twitter space.
Awesome. And it looks like we just got Dow up here, our in-house DeFi enthusiast. Welcome, Dow.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I know you're traveling, but thanks for making it.
All right, yeah, I'm flying to DR, Dominican Republic for a week, but we got a stack battle, so I'll try to be there. Excited for this one. And I didn't want anybody to say I'm an ETH maxi, so that's why I'm not here. I'm here. I'm excited for BNB and this project as well. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off. Just at a high level, just some things, and maybe we can start with Adam. Like, as you can see, Dow just mentioned, he's an Ethereum maxi. So why BNB chain? Like, just at a quick high level things that I saw some stats from the week of May 12th. BNB chain had 1.39 million daily active users, 4.3 million daily transaction, and it's the third blockchain with the highest TVL in DeFi at holding 9.5% of the market. Third to Tron and Ethereum. So yeah, maybe we could kick it off with that, Adam. Why BNB chain? Aside from all the great things that I said, when developers are looking to maybe expand to different blockchains, what do you tell them when they ask you why should you come to BNB chain?
Actually, very good question. So there's plenty, I think, of reason. The main one I will say is with the first stats you mentioned. There's a lot of people, daily active users on BNB chain. One of the main mission I'll say we will have as a BNB chain foundation always been I'll say being on the crusade for mass onboarding, making more and more Web2 people becoming Web3, and we want to be a friendly hub for that. If you're a project and you want to speak to a lot of a retail user, I think BNB Chain is a good hub for that. We're trying to make it very accessible. It's very easy to on-ramp and off-ramp of the chain. You don't have to do several manipulation. If you want to go through a DEX, your decentralized exchange, I try to speak with simple terms. Everyone can go through it. If you want centralized exchange directly with a token, this is also very easy to access. We developed the effort over the first quarter of this year. We had a lot of cool news and a lot of cool partners and projects that joined us on the chain. So I would say you also have choice. You're not bound to one a specific project. If you want to explore decentralized exchanges or lending or derivatives and many things you will probably be speaking after, you also have plenty of choice. It's also battle tested, meaning that I'll say there's a lesser risk probably for anything to happen on the BNB chain. It's quite resilient. I could speak of advantage for hours since it's my job, but maybe for now we can let's let's
No,
stop
I
with
think those
that.
are all great points. And then just one that I wanted to highlight, in the past recent weeks, with many different things that have gone viral, the gas fees have been astronomical on, main chain, Ethereum, and so forth. So having that option, like typically when that happens, people always try to venture out and find other blockchains that where the gas fees are at a more sustainable level, and we can definitely see that on BNB Chain. But
So totally. Yes. Sorry, Jess. Yeah, you're actually right. I forgot to mention that we just recently slashed the fees from 5 GUI to 3 GUI. So it's even more accessible now, and we are I think an average for a regular transaction costs around 3 to 4 cents, available on BSC scan to check. So now it's becoming very accessible. Actually, thanks for highlighting it.
yeah, and even something that I was also reading, like during that, this hype that we had, this huge surge of activity on Ethereum, the week of May 7th, BNB saw DEX volumes that hadn't been seen since May of 2022. So definitely you saw that activity increase on other chains, due to those rising gas prices on Ethereum. So it's definitely interesting to see what happens in other areas when we're seeing the gas prices rise. But yeah, I think those are all great points. And, we have Seraphim here, who's part of the Lido Finance team. And, liquid staking is something that we've seen talked about recently a lot in DeFi. So, Seraphim, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about what Lido does and why your team is interested in possibly launching on BNB Chain?
Absolutely. So, yeah, Lido is a liquid staking provider. It's probably the largest one in the space. You kind of, if you look at DeFi, most of it is related to Lido, really, in terms of stake ETH as an asset. And what people do, for those that don't know, you can put in your ETH, you get a staked representation of that, and that staked Ethereum basically earns yield derived from validating the Ethereum blockchain. And at this point, it's extremely well integrated, very liquid. And we sat down, we thought, surprising that we never looked at BNB properly. Like, it's such a huge ecosystem with lots of users. They love to trade. And staked ETH is such a huge asset. How come they're not there? So I said, let's just go to BNB, basically. And that's how the whole idea came about. I was advocating for BNB for a long time, exactly for the same reasons Adam was advocating, because huge community, lots of trading, cheap. Gas fees are very gas fees are conducive to lots of trading, and the community is just great. It's a lot of fun. And when everything blew up after FTX, BNB is like the only one that's like, I don't give a fuck. We're going to keep trading. We're going to keep having fun. And you see this vibe even today. So it's great. That's why we're going there.
Awesome. Love to hear it. And then Brian, you're from Gamma Strategies, and you guys are already actively involved in the BNB chain ecosystem. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've just recently, about a month ago, integrated with Finace on BNB Chain. So Finace is a VE33 solidly model, which is just another form of a DEX that was popularized by Andre Cronje. Basically, the token holders are able to vote for certain gauges and earn fees that are earned from the liquidity positions there. And basically, we're managing liquidity positions on behalf of Finace, and users can bribe our positions and earn the fees that are earned from our concentrated liquidity positions. And concentrated liquidity tends to earn more fees than the current model, which was active for quite some time, which is full range liquidity. But yeah, that's sort of the nature of our current integration with BNB Chain. It's been fantastic thus far. Lots of volumes, lots of users. It's really expanded our ecosystem quite a bit. So definitely couldn't be happier to be on BNB.
That's awesome. Love to hear it. And I know you guys do focus on market making and managing liquidities and things of that sort. any challenges or maybe things that went well? Like, are there any challenges with managing liquidity across chains, and anything that maybe you guys do to improve that?
Yeah, when we manage liquidity across chains, there's always challenges involved, especially with different networks. And sometimes there's front running risk, sometimes there's no front running risk. So every time we're rebalancing liquidity positions, we're essentially removing the liquidity and then placing it in a different range. And when that happens, there's front running potential there. So if it's on BNB chain on Ethereum, there's some front running there. So we use a lot of private RPCs. On Ethereum, we use flash bots. On BNB chain, BNB 48 is a private validator that once you go through BNB 48, you could avoid the public mempool. So we take advantage of that. But just generally speaking, active liquidity management on all chains, there's just a challenge of having your liquidity be in range. I mean, there's great advantages to concentrated liquidity. Just a plus or minus 50% range is about 4x more capital efficient than a full range liquidity position. So if you're a protocol incentivizing liquidity, incentivizing concentrated liquidity is 4x cheaper. With 4x less liquidity, you could get pretty much source the same price impact for your traders. But the trick is making sure that you're actively managing it. And so we're running servers that are constantly pinging the pools and surveying the pool prices. And if the pool prices hit certain targets, we rebalance the positions on behalf of our users and sort of abstract away the complexities that active liquidity management has for a lot of retail users.
Love it, love it. I'll throw it to Dow to see if he has any questions. I know you have to jump off early, Dow, so I want to make sure you get your chance.
Thanks, Jess. I appreciate that. Yes, I wish I could stay longer. This is going to be a great, great panel. I would hear a lot of alpha being shared. Being the default ETH maxi here, I have to ask a question around decentralization. Your take on this, and just to kind of frame my question a little bit. For the end user, obviously the things that they care about is having access to the chain in a cheap and fast manner. And Jess was mentioning those numbers in terms of daily active users on Tron, on BSC, are way larger than on ETH and Arbitrum. So I think it goes to show that there's a lot of success in really optimizing for user experiences. But from a developer point of view, what's your overall take on the topic of decentralization on the BNB chain? Are you, I would say, necessarily satisfied, but do you think there are effort to make that chain or to keep that chain decentralized, or can you just touch on your topic in general?
Maybe I will address this one because it's a great question. I was sharing at first that you definitely have the mass onboarding story at heart as a main mission. It doesn't mean that decentralization is not an important also topic for us. There is a lot of actually we could speak so long about decentralization. One could argue that to be decentralized, you need several choices, right? It's good to not only having one chain as a choice and also others or some others. Usually, I know that when we speak about decentralization, people will tend to speak first about the number of validators. BNB Chain is POSA, right? Proof of stake authority. So I'll say by definition, it does not have a super large number of validators like we can see with Ethereum layer 1, for example. But when we look at the Nakamoto coefficient, it's a coefficient that helps to see the level of decentralization of a chain. We're not too bad. However, there's obviously a lot of work to keep doing. Right now, the initiatives going on is to increase the number of validators. We are hoping to go to 48. So I know once again that it's far from the numbers of Ethereum, but it's a journey. It's a journey we take seriously. I think I think we're going to get there step by step, but it's definitely being more and more decentralized. I like to think of decentralization not like black or white. kind of a topic, but more of a spectrum, where you work towards more and more decentralization. And that is definitely one of the key things for BNB Chain. So definitely important topic, and always open for all the feedbacks of community and developers' worries to keep improving.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question, which was a great question. And just to the fact that you guys are still continuously working on improving the decentralization of the network is good to hear. So completely appreciate that. I'm going to throw this question over to Seraphim. Um, what are some of the aside from for liquid staking, like what are some of the value proposition that can bring to users? That's obviously been a hot DeFi topic, or DeFi functionality per se. So what are some of the value propositions that can bring to users, and is there any benefits on one chain versus the other?
Value proposition of what exactly?
For users, like how do they benefit from liquid staking? What are some of the options that they can do with liquid staking versus regular staking?
Oh, sure, yeah. So, for instance, when you provide liquidity indexes, let's say versus Bitcoin or wrap Bitcoin, you provide wrap Bitcoin versus ETH in an LP position. Obviously, it would be much more advantageous to provide wrap Bitcoin versus staked ETH, because staked ETH earns yield while at the same time allowing you to do what you do in DeFi, like LPing. So just the ability to keep earning yield while doing whatever you do in DeFi is a major advantage. Or when you, let's say, when you're you're trying to, same thing, but if you're trying to bootstrap liquidity as a new project, you're trying to create something like a trading pool versus ETH. If you do that versus staked ETH, and part of your treasury is in staked ETH versus ETH, you're also earning yield at the same time. So that's quite neat. At the same time, just the availability of staked ETH as an asset, if you can lever up on that versus ETH, gives you pretty good yield with not too much risk. So like if you go on Aave, use the E mode, you could earn very decent APRs while preserving everything in terms of like liquidity, usability, etc. So yeah, just the ability to have an ETH equivalent asset that earns yield of 5% is better than not earning 5% on your ETH, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely been a trend that I've seen a lot of action around. And Adam, I'm going to throw this back to you really quick. As you're seeing projects coming into the BNB ecosystem, what type of DeFi projects are you seeing mostly wanting to launch on BNB? Are you seeing any trends in DeFi for the projects that are launching on BNB Chain?
Okay, I think everyone is hearing more and more about RWA, right? Real world asset. So a lot of initiatives are building around. We are on the BNB Chain in general. I will always say we are on the lookout for innovative DeFi projects, everything that can bring something fresh, and if you think it can be competitive to the BNB Chain. Usually, we're super interested to speak with you and educate ourselves about how we could keep improving the DeFi ecosystem. Lately, it was a lot on diversification. We wanted to show to everyone on the BNB Chain that you have a lot of choices. You can choose among many ways for dexes. We've seen on the beginning of this year the rise of Finace, as Brian was explaining the concept for the VE33. There's of course PancakeSwap, Uniswap's coming over, Trader Joe has come over. For others, we also push a lot for that. Liquid staking is definitely something a hot topic also. We do have a couple of partners that have launched liquid stake BNB. I also think bringing over the juicy yield, that Seraphim was mentioning about of liquid stake ETH over BNB Chain could also be interesting and offering as assets as people on the chain. So Yeah, I'll say obviously the new trends probably RWA, but it's more like a buzzword, and we will see how it will all translate in the end.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of conversations as well. Dow has had some great spaces about world assets and so forth. I'll throw it over to Tammy and Dow to see if they have any other questions before I go on.
Go ahead, Dow. I don't have any at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the road, so I couldn't hear some of the stuff. But just more a general question. We have a lot of projects in the space like Lido and Gamma. They're looking for like more cross chain. I'd love to hear your take on how this space is moving forward in terms of making it easier for users, right? Obviously, Binance has a great ecosystem between the exchange and the actual chain. There's a lot of natural integration and also a lot of adoption in Brazil and in emerging nations that we don't necessarily see in the West. But just in general, like where do you see the most amount of adoption? You guys being on different chains, and what's the next step for getting more users on chain and playing with crypto in general?
Brian, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure, I could take that one. So I think a lot of the reasons why we see a lot of action on BNB Chain is because I think everybody's first step into crypto is usually through a centralized exchange. Like mine personally was through Coinbase, and then from Coinbase, I transferred funds to a MetaMask wallet, and then I just started playing around on Ethereum, L2s, BNB Chain. And so a lot of users are onboarded, like especially my international friends are onboarded through Binance. And so from Binance, the easiest next step to going to DeFi is BNB Chain. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of the adoption take place. And once you're actually, in the sort of the decentralized crypto space where you're kind of off the centralized exchange, I think that's where you see, a lot of competition amongst the different networks that are, incentivizing with their own network tokens. You see a lot of people move initially because of the incentives, but a lot of people stay because of the communities. Like BNB Chain has a great community of projects here, so a lot of people stay on BNB Chain. Another L2 I think that has a great community is Arbitrum, where you got a lot of good initial products like GMX, I think Olympus DAO in the beginning, and a few others. Like those communities are the reasons why people decide to build on certain chains. Of course, the performance, the gas fees, all that has to do has something to do with it as well. But I think a great connection to a centralized exchange, and then some incentives to get some initial traction, and then having a great community is what I think tends to have the stickiest user base and liquidity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and those are all great things positive things about BNB Chain and DeFi. But then, on the other side, there are always risks with DeFi. So, what are some of the things maybe are that DeFi users can look for, or maybe that your projects are doing, or what you've been seeing on BNB Chain to stay safe in DeFi? Because obviously, we are in a decentralized space, so there could be protocols that either are not set up correctly or are malicious. So, what are some things that, as a DeFi user, to stay safe and find protocols that are safe for us to use?
Maybe I can address this question because it's a very important one also. Yeah, we're still in the wild west, right? We are still every day is better, and when we're improving in what we're doing, but you have to be careful. A lot of people always use the word "your," right? Do your own research. I think for DeFi it's becoming difficult, especially for new joiners. So yeah, it's important to do your own research, but you need to have some tools for it. The basic for security is to look if the project have been audited, and ideally multiple times from reputable audit companies. That's one of the key criteria to look at. But also, is the program running bug bounty? Are they offering money for everyone finding any vulnerability that can be very good. The white hat program for people to constantly being battle tested and keep improving. That's also a second one. The third part is about the yield, right? You need to understand where the money come from. I think we need to educate a lot also that there isn't probably what you call the magic internet money. Not referring to the stable coin, of course, but that the yield have to come from somewhere. It have to be sustainable. So if it's too juicy, maybe there is something wrong with it. In BNB Chain, we have DAP-Bay. DAP-Bay is a service that's taking care of analyzing progress. They have the analyzing projects. Sorry, they have what they call the red alarm. It helps also flag out suspicious projects for people. So it's always good practices to go to check a DeFi protocol you are interested in through DAP-Bay when you're operating on the BNB chain for it. And there is also kind of review that you can see over. On the personal basis, this is what I am doing as a basic due diligence. And then, of course, there is the high risk, high reward. There's always that. But if you are, say, just a regular users and you just want a safe yield, it's good to go to protocols that are reputable, that have been around for a while, and that has a large liquidity, large TVL, and so on. And even so, there is always a risk. So it's always good to remember that there is a chance that you lose your entire capital, and you have to feel okay with that to avoid trouble. I'm sounding a little scary. I think it works for everything, but actually the message is the positive vibes that I also want to send is that it's getting better and better. We're deploying more and more tools also for it, and supporting through grants more and more tools that help protect users. Because if we want the next BNB chain, what we want a lot is the next wave of mass adoption, right? So it will have to come. It will have to come through security and use of experience for people.
Completely agree. And something that you said about the yield, I think the saying is, if you don't know where the yield is coming from, you are the yield. So definitely, I think we all learned that, during last year, we all learned that lesson. So totally agree with that. What any thoughts about that, Seraphim? What are you guys doing to keep users safe?
Yeah, obviously, if yields are very high, there's a good reason for that. It's probably inflationary. It's probably a bit more risky. Very often, yields are high when you try to bootstrap a project, which is why Lido doesn't have very high yields, because it's a very mature kind of project. If you look at the yield of about 5%, it's basically kosher, validator yields you would get from staking. There's arguably harder to imagine safer yields or rewards within DeFi, because it comes from the actual consensus layer of Ethereum mainnet, right? In terms of keeping it safe, like recently we had a huge rollout of Lido V2, and there's been countless number of audits and mechanisms embedded into that, and we spent about $2 million or something on audits. Basically, it's a fortune, and the reason is because Lido's trying to become eventually a utility for DeFi, and it has to be trusted by everyone. It has to be eventually become trustless and used by everyone, really. And it's becoming at some point, Lido is becoming systemic where it has to be as safe as it gets, really. So that's one of the things we're doing. But in terms of yields, yeah, it's kind of funny how yields across OSTs generally kind of fluctuate. Like if you look at Lido, Rocket Pool, CBE, Binance ETH, which is a new product, these yields are all a little bit different, which is interesting because that way people trade different OSTs versus different OSTs because there's a price discrepancy or yield discrepancy, which is quite interesting. I'm not sure exactly why it's happening sometimes, but it's pretty cool that it occurs,
Yeah, that's interesting to see those things happening. Let's see if Brian's back. Brian, did you make it back?
Yeah, I made it back.
Okay,
Sorry, my connection cut out.
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries. Maybe a question to you. So obviously, I think everybody here on the panel, is multi-chain, or believes in applications that are multi-chain. Any thoughts about just like where DeFi is going as far as multi-chain, and any technologies or innovations that you've seen to maybe help alleviate some of the current issues with being multi-chain?
Yeah, like being multi-chain. So I guess right now, like the biggest thing was just moving away from Ethereum, whether that's L2, whether that's alt L1, just getting the gas fees cheaper and allowing retail users to trade without having to pay like $100 for a swap, like during the NFT boom. I mean, even for us, like even for projects, it was very, very difficult for us to just stay on Ethereum because when we're rebalancing liquidity positions, it would oftentimes cost like $100 to rebalance a position that we would be, footing the bill for. During the NFT craze, we were paying up to like $1,000 to rebalance. So it was definitely not sustainable as a project for us to stay on Ethereum. But once we moved on to Polygon, BNB Chain, Arbitrum, Optimism, it was a lot more sustainable. We're finally making some revenue and being cash flow positive as a project. So I think just the basic things need to be there. Just is it an environment where projects can be sustainable? Is it somewhere where users can trade without getting destroyed on fees and things like that? Those are just like the basic things that need to be there. There's other technologies that are out there that are looking to aggregate the different liquidities that are multi-chain. I'm not sure if that's exactly maybe what's preferred, but there's different projects out there. I know Connex is building like cross-chain contract calls. Layer Zero is doing a lot of things that are cross-chain, that are aggregating liquidity from all these different chains, and I think those are some interesting technologies. I think they're still early, but yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep an eye out on those things.
Love it. Completely agree. Oh, I was going to say something that you mentioned and it completely left my mind. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. But yeah, great points. Oh, yeah, what I was going to mention, it just came back to me that I had never thought about that. Like, I always think about it from the user's perspective. Yes, we're paying a lot of gas fees, but never realize that, what that does to the project's bottom line when you guys have to do all your, whatever you guys do on chain, that the user is like oblivious to behind the scenes. So, never thought about it like that. So, great point. Thanks for bringing that up from that perspective. Um, and yeah, and Adam, hearing that, aside from, the cheaper gas fees, well, with the cheaper gas fees, do you think that gives protocols an advantage to be able to innovate different things? Like, how else can this help projects that want to deploy on BNB Chain?
It's another good question that I'm still debating a lot. Also, we did a lot internally because gas fee. Why there is gas fees? There's an utility behind, right? It's to make the business model sustainable. Meaning that those gas fees, they go to the validators. Part of it go to the BNB Chain Foundation, so I can have a job, and and more seriously, it's sustainable. So even during bear market time, everything works as planned. There is no need to hold a large sum of token that could be dumped in case of difficulties or things like that. So for project building over, making sure if it's too cheap, the business model doesn't work. You have to find another business model for it to be sustainable. So low gas fees are important. It needs to be accessible, and at the same time, it needs to meet the other hand. So maintaining for BNB Chain being retail oriented, also institutional is not really retail oriented, but betting on a high number of daily active users. It's a good strategy. It's allow us right now, even during bear market, to slash a bit the gas fee to make it even more accessible, but it stays sustainable and healthy, I will say that way. Of course, for projects, I think depending on the nature of the project, here we're speaking about DeFi, so most of projects are mostly interested in what we call I'll say in liquidity, in getting some capital on their chain. So gas fee a little bit less important, although it could be for retail. If you're targeting retail, gas fee are quite important for projects. We ran a couple of initiatives to support that also and help for the early adoptions and so on for projects. We have special program to support special kind of projects. So when it's about a DeFi, we are just launching. I'm teasing a bit here. It's an alpha because it's not totally finished yet, but we're trying to work. We're almost there into an initiative that we are calling Liquidity DAO. It's hopefully in the future will help projects to get the initial seeding they're looking for to launch. We don't provide it ourselves, but we put people in contact. This is what we do a lot at the foundation. Actually, we're a facilitator and help people speak to other people, so everyone is coming in agreement usually and finding the right partners for the right project. Today is, I think, is the main challenge in DeFi right now, right? For during this bear market, seeding liquidity is one of the main challenge. So when we speak to projects, usually they explain us what they are looking for, and we're trying to find the solutions. That's another point of what we're trying to do to support more and more adoptions and coming over BNB Chain for projects.
Love it. And you mentioned you mentioned something. You mentioned DAO, which, by the way, our DAO did have to jump off to catch his flight. But Seraphim, I'll throw this over to you. How do you think the role of DAO? What role do you think DAOs is going to take in the DeFi space? Does Lido have any type of DAO structure? Maybe you want to chime in on your thoughts about DAOs and DeFi.
Yeah, I think Lido is as DAO as it gets, in all sorts of ways, in good ways and bad ways, but pretty much like there's many departments or sub DAOs. There's a finance kind of sub DAO thing. There's a biz dev sub DAO thing, and all the voting is actually on chain. There's a level of certain, like obviously, of developer work that tries to oversee the entire governance workflow, but at the end of the day, it's an on-chain vote. And what it does is it's pretty interesting. Like you have all sorts of people from different walks of life coming into the DAO, contributing, going back and forth. It's pretty cool. In terms of what's the future of the DAO, I honestly don't know. I think for some guys like Lido or Maker, it seems to work. For smaller projects to try to set up a DAO day one, I don't think it works because you need to be kind of focused. You need to do the right things first in a centralized way to get market share. And then you're like, now we can decentralize a little bit and kind of become more of a utility rather than kind of a company structure. But that's just my personal opinion because I worked for big companies, small companies, and I saw how just going straight away into a DAO structure is such a pain in the ass. Like I think you have to take it slow personally.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I've seen some projects try to pull off a DAO at the beginning, and it's like nobody can agree on nothing in the beginning. So if you don't even have like the roadway built, like getting to that next step to take off is nearly impossible because then nobody can agree on anything.
Yeah. What happens though, which is interesting with DAOs, is that if you tell people you're going to have a DAO, that implies, oh, there's going to be a token. So people start giving a shit, like if you're a very early project, you have a Discord channel and you never see this in Web 2. People out of nowhere start helping out, giving feedback, trying out the test net because they think it's going to be a DAO, which means there's going to be a token. And I think that's fine. I think it's one of the go-to markets of crypto. Like one of the good things about crypto, we can create tokens, we can create DAOs. People are getting involved day one to bootstrap liquidity and activity. That's something you're not seeing in Web 2, which is probably a good thing. But not straight away. Don't do a DAO day one. This is crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I totally agree with that because I think a lot of the DAOs that start up from day one, a lot of them are pseudo DAOs where, I mean, it's centralized anyways, where, the treasury owns pretty much all the tokens. So I think it's just sort of like, a facade in the beginning. And honestly, in the beginning, you should have the team be making all the core decisions. They're the most invested in the project, and they're still looking for product market fit. And I think once you find the product market fit and you find the areas for decentralization where you could have true decentralization, I think that's when you should spin up the DAO. But I think to do it from day one, I think is a little bit misguided. You could potentially be jerked around in many, many different directions. And in all honesty, it's probably not a true DAO if you're starting it from the very beginning.
Couldn't agree more. Great points. Great points. I did see that we had a few speakers up here. I'll give them a chance to see if they had a question for any of the speaker panels. And if anybody has a question, feel free to request. Druids, did you have a question or a comment? All right. Football, welcome. Did you have a question or a comment? Okay. Can anybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thought it was just
Okay.
me. Okay.
You're
Okay,
good,
good.
Jess.
Druids football, unmute if you have anything to say. If not, I will be booting you down. But yeah, great points. And yeah, anything, let's see, what else? Let me just grab my notes here. What else we got going on? So we talked about DAOs. Adam, did you want to chime in anything else about DAOs? What are your thoughts about DAOs and DeFi?
I'm pretty aligned with Brian and Seraphim about DAOs. I think there's still a long journey for DAOs to be. It's still rather new, I'll say, as a concept. So obviously there is a lot of room for progress, and it's going definitely in the right way. There is a lot of experimentation also towards it to have voting powers even on DAOs. Make sure it's truly decentralized and does not end up in a handful of large holders and things like that. Benefit best for the communities. A lot of progress to do, but going in the right way. It's definitely a concept I'm very bullish on.
Oh, we'll see how that grows. It's good to see the progress over the past few years, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. As we start wrapping up, maybe I'll start going through to each one of the speakers. Maybe tell us a little bit about, we'll start with Brian, what's going on at Gamma Strategies, what's coming next. Give us a rundown of what you would like to leave us with.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I'll maybe just give you like a short term and the long term roadmap. In the short term, there's a lot of tailwinds for concentrated liquidity. So, I think a lot of UniV3 just went open source. For those who don't know, UniV3 is a concentrated liquidity model. Almost every single DEX was on a full range liquidity model where you're essentially providing liquidity from the price of 0 to infinity. And the main innovation behind UniV3 was that you can now concentrate the liquidity within specific price ranges and get a lot more capital efficiency. So there was a business source license on, the UniV3 code, which just went open source about a month ago. And ever since it went open source, you see PancakeSwap adopting the UniV3 model and various other DEXs, Athena, Retro, QuickSwap, various other DEXs are adopting a very similar type of concentrated liquidity model. So right now, our game plan right now is a lot of horizontal expansion. It's a significant tailwind for us as liquidity managers because as I mentioned before, while concentrated liquidity is great, it's a lot more difficult to manage. And we've been in this game for about a year and a half now, or a little bit more, maybe about 2 years now. Since mid 2021, we've been actively managing liquidity. So right now we're preparing for scale, like sort of building the factory, so to speak, where we're looking to launch on and integrate with as many DEXs as quickly as possible. And so that's like the short-term game plan. The long-term game plan is, we understand that, while it's cheaper to incentivize liquidity on concentrated liquidity AMMs, one of these days the incentives are going to start to dry up. And so we're preparing early for when that happens. And in order to do that, we need to find ways to hedge against impermanent loss on our vaults, have some delta neutral strategies. So we're building strategies. We hired additional strategists. We hired more smart contract devs to build out the infrastructure and the strategies to prepare for, a world where there's less incentives there. So, this includes, different hedging strategies, and yeah, that's a long-term game plan. So much more building vaults on top of our liquidity positions. I think that's a long-term goal, but for the short term, it's just building the factory, a lot of horizontal expansion.
Love it. And if anybody wants to maybe connect with you guys, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Oh yeah, so I think most of our community is on Twitter and Discord. So it's discord.gg/gamma strategies, or just find us at gamma strategies on Twitter, and you can find all our links there.
Love it. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Brian. Seraphim, you're up. What's next for Lido?
Yeah, Lido has, as I said, it had a really big update like a week or two ago called Lido V2. So it allows you to do two things. First of all, it allows you to withdraw your Ethereum after you stake it, which is a huge change. And the second is it lays the stage for more decentralization. A lot more people will be able to be validators in the next coming months, where you could walk in, post a bond, and start validating the network within Lido, basically. And that's not something that's been possible before. So also with DVT, you'll be able to basically gather up a bunch of friends and run one node operator essentially together, rather than each have a separate one. So gradually Lido is going to become more and more of a kind of a public utility where everyone will be able to validate it. Apart from that, obviously BNB, huge thing. So bridging is a conversation that's been going on, but once that's sorted out, I think we're going to go to BNB and just go, just go crazy, just go on Pancake, Wombat, go on Venus, etc. So that's going to be fun. And in terms of how to find me, so if you do not value your brain cells at all, you can follow me on Twitter.
You're funny.
If you do value your brain cells, if you do value them, go to Lido Finance and check out the blogs. It's pretty informative. And if you've got any questions, just reach out to me, DM me. I'll try to help out as much as I can. So there you go.
Thanks, Seraphim. And Adam, I'll turn it over to you. And then I'd also love to maybe, if there are developers or projects in the audience that are interested in deploying on BNB, is there any support that BNB Chain offers or anything like that? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes, definitely. We're on the constant lookout. The objective is clear. We want 1 million point something is good as a daily active users, but 1 billion is better. We truly believe we're going to get there. So and you don't come in a chain for the chain. You come for all the cool stuff happening over there. So the show already really come from projects, from everything that is getting built. We're super humbled to have Gamma strategies over BNB chains. For example, I think DEXs and V3 is becoming more and more difficult for, I'll say, the everyday users, the everyday BNB chain users. So having solutions to still benefit from it without going through the hassle of understanding it's critical. Lido, needless to say, that will be super humbled to have them coming over. And for any project, if you think that you have definitely something good to roll out on the BNB chain, you can reach out. There is plenty of way of supporting. It's actually usually often tailor-made, depending on your needs. If you're a game, it's going to be way different than if you're a DeFi project. But all in all, we are in the same boat. We want to give great utility to our users and great experiences. So we have all interest in seeing great apps becoming successful on the BNB chain. So it starts with grants, marketing support. I could list it for hours, as it's really tailor-made. If you want to know more, you are welcome to DM me directly or reach out to through our website, someone is going to for sure taking care of you, and hopefully it will be the beginning of a long journey and a successful one.
I love it, love it. Definitely looking forward to see Lido launching on BNB Chain and all their new projects. And yeah, and from like I hear a lot of projects from a lot of project founders and developers, and sometimes I'm like shocked, even if it's something as simple as like a wallet security tool. I'm like, how are you guys not on BNB Chain? Like, there's so many users over there consistently on a daily basis. The numbers don't lie. They're there. So I really appreciate you guys for coming by. I think it's been a great conversation, and hopefully everybody checks out what's being built on BNB Chain as far as DeFi. So really want to thank you guys for coming and for chatting with us this morning. Oh, and I did forget one question. I usually ask this in the beginning of the show, but what kind of coffee do you guys drink?
Straight black filter coffee, my favorite.
I stick to espresso from my end mostly.
Nice.
Yeah, same here. Espresso makers. I have an espresso maker at home. Just make Americanos every morning.
Nice. I forgot that this morning. I didn't have enough coffee, so forgot that this morning. We have one person coming up. We'll see if they have a question. If not, we'll keep it going. Let's see. But yeah, can't go wrong with a little espresso. Nico, good morning. Did you have a question or comment for the group?
Good morning. No, I'm here for the memes. You don't have to sell me on the BNB. I've been a BNB maxi for not maxi, but like advocate for a very long time.
And what do you like about BNB Chain?
I started my whole DeFi journey on BNB, Pancake Swap, all that, Bakery Swap. Yeah, like I literally started my entire DeFi journey on BNB chain. You don't have to sell me on anything. I'm staking Pancake Swap cake right now. I've been staking it for a while.
Yeah, these DeFi platforms with food names. I'm hungry. I still haven't had breakfast yet. But yeah. Guys, we are gonna keep the show going, but I do want to be respectful of your times. I appreciate you guys coming. If you guys want to stick around and just talk crypto and NFTs, feel free to. But if you need to jump down, I totally understand, and do want to thank you again for your time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you,
Talk to you soon.
guys. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Thank
if you
you.
just joined us, you can go back and play the recording when we're done. We just had a great conversation about DeFi on BNB with Adam from BNB Chain, Seraphim from Lido Finance, and Brian from Gamma. So make sure to check that out. And yeah, check out BNB Chain. I do see a couple of ETH maxis up here. Matt, do you dabble around on BNB Chain?
I used to gamble on BNB.
You mean gamble? Used to do DeFi?
Nah, so Pancake Swap is one of the biggest BNB, I guess, exchanges or
Debts, yeah.
whatever they
Yeah,
are.
everybody
Debts,
loves
there you go.
Pancake
And
Swap.
exactly. So Pancake Swap had this thing on. It was like a lottery game, and basically like you put your BNB into it, and you like bet by the I think by the minute or every 5 minutes about which direction the price of BNB is gonna go. So if you're right and it goes up and it stays up for like.
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, Matt, I think you rugged.
Yeah, he rugged. So we'll go to, Matt, you rugged. Brooke, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. That was really insightful. I listened to most of it, but I'm a fan of BNB Chain. I like when you said that about wallet security. I just think there's a lot.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, for real. Like no, I learned a lot from them. That was really good. But good morning. I've had a lot of coffee. Yay.
Good morning. Let's see. Matt's back. Let's see if he wants to finish his thoughts.
Y'all hear me?
Yep, you're loud and clear.
We can
Okay, I
hear
hear
you.
you. It's so annoying. I had to turn my notifications back off. What I was saying. Yes, I used to gamble on BNB. So you bet the price of BNB going up or down. If you're right, they give you free BNB. If you're wrong, you lose the BNB that you put up. So I don't know why PancakeSwap had that game. I still think they do have it. But yeah, while I was dabbling on PancakeSwap, I used to do that a lot, and then it just got to a point where I was like, yeah, I'm losing too much BNB. But yeah, I like it though. It's fast. BNB is very fast. It's a very fast platform. I mean, a very fast blockchain.
Yeah, and aside from PancakeSwap, I know Uniswap recently launched on BNB Chain, and there was another DEX. It just slipped my mind. Which one is it? Trader
Trader
Joe.
Joe,
Yes, Trader Joe
probably.
was the other one, and that just launched as well. So a lot of these DEXs are going multi-chain. Yeah.